Okay, welcome everybody to Saratoga Whiskey Club tasting number 208. Yeah. 208. You guys have to remember that, Brian. This is your first seminar, so it's 208 of the Saratoga Whiskey Club. We're at First Fill Spirits tonight. We've been big fans of Tenmile. I've actually known Joel before he even started Tenmile, back in the New York City kind of whiskey days. But yeah, we have Brian, who's one of the account managers upstate and kind of Hudson Valley. And then we have Cole, who's one of the assistant, or maybe the assistant distiller, along with Shane, who is the master distiller at Tenmile. They're going to explain kind of the history of the distillery, kind of why it started where it is, what their goal purpose is, and then we're going to start going through 8 really great single malts tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to them. If you have any questions, just chime in. I'm going to read questions from the chat room as well, if anybody online has any questions, and we'll go from there. So cool. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you for having us. How's everybody doing tonight? And everybody at home? Everybody thirsty? Yes. Ready to drink some whiskey? Yes. All right. So we're from Tenmile Distillery, little town called Passaic, New York, down in Dutchess County. So we're doing vodka, gin, and what you have in front of you, single malt whiskey, using all New York State grains, in this case, barley. So everything started from a farm right near us in Red Hook. We moved to a farm near Rochester. Everything malted about a half an hour away from the distillery. So we're trying to keep the process as local as possible. And as you can see, I mean, we're doing things a little bit differently. A lot of distilleries, especially in the Hudson Valley, that are doing bourbons, ryes, and really doing a great job with it. And we wanted to carve our own path, focusing exclusively on single malt whiskey. Something that kind of is almost like an afterthought to other distilleries in the area. So Cole here, I mean, you've been with the distillery for how long?
Since we built the thing about middle of 2019. And
I mean, how would you say, like, what's your average day? Like, what do you do there?
A lot of sweating, standing by the stills. No, we started, again, I think the idea came in 2017 or so. Joel Levangia wanted to start a little distillery out of his garage with his buddy. His father-in-law, John Dyson, has some pull around here in New York State. He was the ex-deputy mayor of New York City. He was also the head of New York State agriculture for a number of years. And he said, I'll build a thing, you run it. We'll do it the right way instead of doing it in the garage with your buddies. So we put the thing together. We started middle of 2019, putting the stills together. All of our equipment is from Scotland. It's all Forsyth's made stills. Forsyth mash tun. The fermenters are from the Finger Lakes or so. But we put it all together in about 6 months. There was a group of Scotsmen that came over. They were the engineers, did all the electrical work. We had a local team out of Westchester come up, put all the pipes together. It was really cool because my background was wine. I spent like 3-4 years as a winemaker. I worked at Millbrook Winery, which Mr. Dyson also owns. And when they started this distillery, I was having a beer with Joel one day, and he was like, come on over, let's make some good whiskey. And once they had Shane on board, I was like, absolutely, this guy's got 35 years of experience in Scotland making whiskey. So I really couldn't turn it down. I got to help put the distillery together, which was really cool because we got to customize it all ourselves. We got to say, we want a valve here. This will make life a lot easier. Put a spray ball there. I don't have to climb in the tanks. So we got to do it all pretty customizable. Shane, like I said, from Scotland, he started at Royal Lochnagar, just as like a tasting room kind of tour guide. Then he got his feet into the warehouse, fixing barrels, helping put up barrels, things like that. Then he moved into the mash house, still house. From there, he moved on to actually manage Oban, Glen Parkless. He helped start Wolfburn Distillery, which he has a little bit of that whiskey over here. And he was really just looking for, I think, something new. American single malt is like a brand new category, as I'm sure a lot of you know. It's like one of the first whiskeys that's been put into law, I think, in like 75, 100 years, something like that. So he really wanted to come over here and make really good American single malt. and he also knew how to do that. So when we started, it wasn't, let's mash this way, ferment, see what happens, wait 6 years, it's okay. So him really having all that knowledge was really integral in what we're about to taste and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I mean, speaking of, let's jump right into the first one.
Yeah.
So the first one's going to be the Export Cask. This is one of our flagship whiskeys, one of our 2 core whiskeys. So a lot of what we do at 10 Mile, it's all the same base whiskey that we're starting with, 100% malted barley, never changed anything with the mash or fermentation since day one. We use a lot of different barrels and marrying of different barrels together. So the Export Cask that you have here, 4 years, 80% bourbon barrel, 20% Oloroso sherry cask. So again, a lot of what we do, I mean, we've got a lot of whiskeys in front of you, a lot of different percentages of different barrels that don't sound like a lot on paper, but especially when you try them tonight, I think you'll see how much of a difference that plays in the final whiskey.
Can you talk a little bit about Little Rest and like the first kind of, or maybe kind of the vision that you guys had when you launched your first inaugural whiskey, and trying to build off of like the wine membership kind of club?
Yeah.
Maybe explain that, because we have actually some of those bottles still too.
The first edition.
The first edition.
Cool.
And it's a new concept. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's done that in whiskey before, so I think it would be interesting
Sure.
for them to know about that.
So one of the other wineries that John Dyson owns is called William Sellium. They're out in Russian River, California. And all of their stuff is pretty much direct to consumer. They've got a list of customers, and it's very like exclusive. Like you got to go there to get the wine. Thank you. You won't find it on store shelves really. And we kind of copied that idea a little bit with our first edition. So this was the first whiskey that we ever released, 3 years old. This was before all the single malt laws were in effect. So it's kind of like a little bit like the Wild West then. So for this one, we used 45% bourbon barrel, 45% William Sellium Pinot Noir barrel, and 10% Italian chestnut barrels, which now we can't really do that as much because it's supposed to be 100% oak.
Oh.
But this guy, yeah. And it does give it a unique taste. It kind of accentuates that, to me at least, that hazelnut note that you'll find in a lot of our whiskeys. I think that's really accentuated in this first edition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a little background on what we do at the distillery. So like he was saying, we use all local grains. Migarelli Farm did a lot of our barley for the first couple of years. Now John Cask, there's a number of farmers. They get their barley out of the field, they send it over to Hudson Valley Malt, who gives a lot of malt to all sorts of breweries, distilleries in the Hudson Valley. They do it the old school way, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know, where they germinate it, put it on the floor, break it the old school way. It's a lot of muscle, a lot of work, not the easy way of doing it.
Nothing commercial about that place.
No, it's all done. They like to say we do it on the floor. So they malt it for us. They stick it into a kiln, which of course is the malting process that heats it up, dries out the barley, that gives it some flavor, and also makes it ready for us to be able to mash. So once they have that kiln dried, they run it through a mill that shreds it up. You end up with husk and flour, and all we really care about is getting the flour, because sugar equals alcohol, which equals whiskey. So they send it to us in a big bag, a 2,000-pound, 1-ton super sack. We put it in the hopper. It's fed into our mash tun. We have a mixing arm that mixes the hot water, falls in. We do it about 60 degrees Celsius. Shane being European, I had to learn all the metric system, which is a lot easier. But 60 degrees Celsius, which I think is like 155, 160 Fahrenheit. Takes it about 20, 30 minutes to mash in. Once it's mashed in, we let it sit for about 30 minutes. During that process, all these enzymes are running around in that mash tun, breaking down these long chains of sugar into fermentable sugars. So once we have this nice hot, what we call wort, we pump it out of the mash tun. We leave all that husk and all the grain behind. We don't put any of that in the still. And we try and clear off really nice clear wort. It's cooled down with the heat exchanger down to about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So we get it really cold, so that when we add the yeast is nice and happy, and we can get long fermentations. So we do 1 week fermentations, which is really long in the whiskey world. Some people do 48 hours, 72, maybe 5 days. We do a full week. So what we mash on Monday will be distilled the following Monday. So we do about 4 mashes a week. So Monday, we'll mash in, let it ferment for a week. Like I said, distill it. Tuesday, same thing. Shane and I switch off. So 1 week I'll be mashing, and then I'll distill whatever I mashed, and vice versa. Once we get it in the washback and it's fermented, we just use a Lallemand yeast called, I forget the name of it, but just like a Scotch whiskey yeast. We get about 8.5 to 9.5% wash or beer. And that goes into the wash still. It's distilled once. We remove a lot of water out of the wash that's in the still. So we've concentrated that from about 9.5% to probably 24, 25%. So we removed a lot of water, got the alcohol. We put that back into the spirit still, distilled again. It goes from about 25%. And once we do our cuts, it starts about 75% alcohol. We let it run down to about 61. That's called the hearts. That's the good stuff, the spirit, the stuff you want to drink. And then after that, we collect all of that into what we call our faints, and that is put back in the still and redistilled the next day. So the Scots are very frugal people. They don't put anything down the drain. You made alcohol, let's redistill it. So we do that every single day, and the name of the game with Shane is we want everything coming off the still to be the exact same. So a couple years down the road, you don't look at this barrel versus this barrel and go, what happened here? It should theoretically be as close as we can get to the exact same whiskey, just put into different barrels. So all the new mixed beer that comes off is technically the same, smells the same, and then once it hits all these different oaks, that's where you get all these different flavors and colors and things like that. Yeah, we'll talk about the barrels in a little bit.
Yeah. What's everybody thinking of the export cask so far? Thank you.
So that one is 4 years old?
4 years, yeah. So I'm going in order. We're going to get into what we call our Revolutionary Series next. The ordering of the whiskeys is kind of by age. We've only got 2 in front of you that are 4 years. The rest are going to be 5. Again, we're a 6-year-old distillery, so we're limited by time at the moment. But so yeah, the Revolutionary Series, not one of our cores. It's all limited. We do about 600 bottles or so of each. Our owner, Joel, wanted to do like a collector's series where each one is, different barrels, and in this case, a different battle in the Revolutionary War. So he's a big history buff. So I think he was kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone with this. He gets to write all the blurbs on the back of the bottles, be a part of the label design, and also make unique whiskeys. Yeah.
Fact check.
Yes, fact check for sure.
You know who will.
That was going to be my next disclaimer, that I personally am not a history buff. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a background on some of the individual battles. Luckily, we do have a history expert here who can correct me if I'm off base. So the first one is going to be the Battle of Brooklyn, the only other 4-year in front of you. So this one, we did not use any wine barrels. This is done entirely in 25-gallon bourbon barrels. So a little bit paler in color. I think the base spirit really shines through a little bit more in this one. See what you think.
And this one is completely sold out pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
We're the only ones that have like 2 more bottles.
This is
of
true.
This one.
This was one that we released. This was one of the first releases in the Revolutionary Series. So it's very, very hard to find now. We sold out at the distillery, maybe a year ago? It's been a bit.
Where do you distribute? Are you just here in Saratoga, or what else do you have?
We're all over the Hudson Valley, the state.
So up until February of this year, we were only in the areas surrounding the distillery. It was me and actually Cole's brother, Chris. We were the sales guys, we were the delivery guys, we were the accounts receivable. We did kind of all of that, and we were limited to, we had a radius that we could cover because we were delivering out of the trunks of our cars, so we couldn't really go too far. February of this year, we started with Skurnik Wines and Spirits, and that's allowed us to expand throughout all of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And from there, we're looking to expand across the whole Northeast. Some of these, like the Revolutionary ones, like the one you're drinking now, are going to be kept as like distillery exclusives. You only see them in a few stores. We're not going to widely distribute them. And then other ones like the George Washington later in the line, we're going to do larger batches of, and you might find all around.
So you said this is 25-gallon ex-bourbon cask?
Yep, for 4 years.
4 years.
Yep.
And all of these are 46%. Correct?
Oh, yes. So everything in front of you tonight, except for the last one, are all 46% alcohol. That's our baseline. That's what we stick with for everything except for cask strength and the General Washington.
And I'm sure some of you guys know, but we do 46% because anything lower, you'd have to basically chill filter it, or else if you put it in a refrigerator or put an ice cube in it, little particles would fall out. So Shane doesn't want any part of that, so we keep it above 46%. That way we don't have to chill filter it. Chill filtering, a lot of people will say, will remove a lot of flavor and things from the whiskey. So really, the only thing we do is dump it out of a barrel. We put it through a 0.5, 45 micron filter, just to make sure there's no barrel dust or a spider in there or whatever's in there. And it goes straight into the bottle. So we do all that on site, so Shane and I, and Brian helps sometimes. But everything's hand bottled.
That's awesome.
We can ask.
Okay.
If people want to know.
Has anybody been to Tenmile before? Any of you guys? No? You ever down the time? Definitely worth a shot.
We have a fairly good sized group from the Saratoga Whiskey Club that all went down.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Right when you guys opened up, and a bunch of them signed up to be,
List members.
List members.
Cool.
But none of them are here tonight.
Right.
Right. Anybody at home?
No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
okay.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
Dan, yeah.
Nate, and there's a bunch.
He's
Yeah.
a big fan.
John.
Then he was going to tell us a little bit about the Battle of Brooklyn, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, please do. I would love if you did it instead of me.
Well, if you're gonna talk though, Vinny, we gotta have the microphone though. So.
Get rid of my little handwritten.
Sorry. The people online. Yeah, of course.
From what I drink, much better educated with that. Thank you.
Well, just when after
Hold on, guys.
after leaving Boston, after leaving Boston, because the Knox brought the cannon up and was able to get it around Charlestown, the British took a look at that. And they basically said, let's get out of Boston. So they hopped on their ships. They headed down to New York. And what happened was they basically occupied New York. And they basically, when they came in, they attacked Brooklyn. And it was devastating. Washington, totally taken by surprise. And they literally pushed Washington's army. They barely escaped with their lives over into Manhattan. And they ended up going all the way up to New Jersey, and they ended up getting away. But it was a pretty bloody battle. It was a devastating defeat for Washington. It was not a good way to start the revolution, basically. But we recovered. That's basically it. I don't want to go.
It's a good way to start the single malt.
That's another thing I noticed about the order was the first three are all battles that we lost. The next three are all battles that we kind of won.
We actually won. We actually lost more than we won.
Okay.
And of course, it wasn't until Saratoga that we really won big.
Okay.
Good on you.
The Battle of Saratoga coming out later this year. It'll be out in October. So I'm pretty excited about that one. So we'll move into, is everybody ready for the next one, or are you still working on Brooklyn? Ready to go? All right. So next is the raid on Richmond. So we're getting into our 5-year whiskeys now. I lied a little bit and said that we're not going to use the Italian chestnut, but we did use the Italian chestnut in this one. So it's 80% bourbon barrel, 20% of those chestnut barrels, which again, to me, I think I personally get a lot of hazelnut from our base whiskey and throughout many of our whiskeys. And I think this one especially, it really comes through. Honestly, like when I first tasted it, I don't want to, get into the tasting notes too early, but the first thing that came to mind for me was like Toblerone. Like I got like a chocolate hazelnuts. It has like that kind of dessert vibe to it. One of my personal favorites in the series.
So a little on the Italian chestnut. So Mr. Dyson also owns a winery in Tuscany, and they make Italian chestnut barrels right around there. So one day he was there and he was like, he bought a bunch of them, shipped them over. Shane was kind of like, never used one, but whatever, we got new make, we'll fill them up. So those are the only new oak we use. So every oak we use has either had something in it, like sherry, Pinot Noir, bourbon, ex-rum, ex-tequila, things like that. So these are the only brand new barrels. Again, by law, you're not allowed to have anything in an American single malt besides stuff that's been in oak. So our little way around that is we emptied those chestnut barrels, put them into ex-Jack Daniel barrels for about a year and a half. So technically they've been in oak. I don't know what the blurred line is on that, but
There's no fine print.
yeah. So, technically it's been in oak, but yeah, we did age it a little bit longer in some American oak from Jack Daniels. But that one, out of the whole thing, not to like put down the other ones, but that one's probably my favorite. It's probably closest to the first edition because of that chestnut in there. I get a lot more depth, almost like you said, chocolate. Those barrels give a lot of flavor to them. Again, those are being the only new wood that we use.
Same new wood, you're not drinking any charring or anything like that.
Nope. Everything that we get, we just immediately fill up. So yeah, we don't open them up and rechar them or do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
With the wine barrels, Shane again had never really used wine barrels over in Scotland. A lot of sherry. Some people use wine barrels. He's kind of iffy on it, but these wine barrels are Francois Frere. They're very nice wood. They make killer Pinot Noir, Cab Sauv, things like that. So we like to think that you put good new make into good wood, there's not much that can really go wrong. And I think we've kind of proved that the Pinot Noir barrel is pretty good with our new make.
Anybody got questions about that one or the previous?
You guys find your barrels, will they be delivered like intact? Do you guys have to rebuild them?
No, we have to fix a hole every once in a while when they leak. But no, they all come fully intact. The wine barrels, at first they were like, as with wine, they usually put sulfur in them to kill any bacteria, this and that. Shane was like, empty the barrel, send it to me with wine in it. So we get those, what they call wet, so they still have a little bit of wine in them. Bourbon cask, Shane likes to say that it doesn't matter really where the bourbon comes from. I might argue. But we have all sorts. We have Jack Daniels, ex-Woodford Reserve, Jim Beam, really anybody that's selling them, and will get a truck to us. We take them in. So we have all sorts of bourbon barrels. We have standard 55-gallon bourbon barrels, and then we also have, like he said, the 20-gallon or 25-gallon and 15-gallon smaller barrels. So again, as you guys I'm sure know, smaller the cask, the faster it ages. You have less liquid, more wood. The bigger the cask, more liquid, less wood. So when you taste those 25, or I think a couple of these have 15-gallon bourbon barrels in them. Again, these are only 4 or 5-year-old whiskeys, but they kind of taste a little older than what's labeled on the bottle.
Looks like we're still. Anybody ready to move on to Quebec? Maybe we can catch up on our history in batches rather than get you to come up here every time.
The only thing I'll say about Richmond is that Benedict Arnold led the British forces at Richmond.
Okay.
And although he's a hero at Saratoga, he quite hates him after that.
Right. And I believe everybody left Richmond, right? And that's why the British showed up and burned it down, and everybody was kind of like, hey, man,
Richmond,
not cool, guys.
Richmond was burned so many times, not only in the Revolution, but the Civil War too.
Right. Wow.
It's one of those places. One to burn.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. So from there, if everybody's ready for the Battle of Quebec, On paper, not too much of a difference between this one, so this and this one in Brooklyn. So this one is 5 years, entirely done in 15-gallon bourbon barrels, so those smaller barrels that Cole was talking about. So up there with Richmond, like this is probably my other favorite of the series, which both Richmond and Quebec, like for my personal taste, kind of challenged it, because I'm always more partial to the wine barrels, the sherry barrels. I like that extra depth and like fruit component to it. Quebec, I kind of like the simplicity of it. I think it's a little softer on the palate. I'll see what you guys think of it first before giving you my tasting notes. But
And this one sold out, right? It's gone.
we do still have a little bit of this one
really?
left, about 50 bottles or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we don't have any here,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
but we can get it if people are.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can get some up to you.
So probably too special.
A free gram at
Should.
the distillery.
That's
It's a
true,
bit of
actually.
a drive, but again, those small barrels, as you can see, it's got a little more color than that first or the second one that was the 25-gallon bourbon barrels. These bourbon barrels were all from Texas, a distillery called Garrison Brothers, if you've ever heard of it. So down in Texas, as you know, it's hot. So what they do is they age stuff in smaller barrels because they can't age as long. I'm sure they're doing some larger format barrels, but when they fill up a standard 50, 55-gallon barrel, or 52, whatever it is, just because of the heat, they lose a lot of whiskey. So if they let that barrel sit for 10 years, there might be a third of it left after a while. So what they do is they use the small barrels, age it for 3-4 years. It tastes like a 10-year-old bourbon. And then bourbon by law, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know, can only be put into brand new oak. So brand new American oak. So once Jack Daniels, Garrison Brothers, whoever it is, uses that barrel, they're done with it. That's why Scotland uses a lot of reused barrels. First off, they don't have a lot of trees over in Scotland. And with the surplus of all these bourbon barrels, like you said, they would break them down, ship them over. The cooperages would put them back together in big format, small format. So yeah, it's just very interesting how same juice, different size barrels all come out completely different. And these ones, we put the whiskey in the barrel about 61% alcohol. These were coming out of the barrel about 64, 65, so we were actually gaining strength. Whereas a standard bourbon barrel, the wine barrels, they might go down a little bit, 59, 58. So just the smaller format just really kind of concentrates all those flavors and yeah, gives us some good whiskey.
There's definitely more like oak spice on this one. You know, it's not as muted.
Right.
In a good way. It's definitely got more of a peppery note to it.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's brought out a little bit more in the ones that we're about to taste as well.
Yeah.
But I'll let you decide for yourselves there.
Do you stick to first fill, or do you guys reuse them several times and keep track?
We're keeping track of them. We're reusing them. The thing, again, I'm not trying to tell anybody that knows, doesn't know or knows, but when bourbon goes in that barrel, that brand new oak barrel, that bourbon takes a lot of that flavor out of the wood. So I don't know, let's say 65, 70% of that flavor comes out of the barrel. So when we get it, it comes out nice and light. It's got a nice little vanilla kind of taste and a little bit of color to it. Versus if we were putting, which some people do, American single malt in a brand new barrel, it would be much more similar to a bourbon. It'd be much darker, richer. But again, Shane being a Scotsman, no thank you. He doesn't want any part of it. We're trying to do it just as the Scots do. But yeah, we've refilled them twice now. Again, they got to age another 3 to however many years. But I'm sure, again, the Scotsman being frugal, they will fill them up as many times as he physically can. You know.
I've actually gotten feedback from a few people that the one you're tasting, the Battle of Quebec, is like probably the most Scotch-like one that we've released so far. I think I would mostly agree with that. Just out of curiosity so far, like show of hands, who's liking the Quebec the most so far? Okay, Richmond, anybody? No? You Richmond, okay, and then
It's that American
Richmond
chestnut. That's the.
And then that's
Straight.
over Brooklyn, but who prefers like the sherry cask with the export the most? Anybody? No? Okay.
So you said something about the barrels being broken down. took out of your season. I had never thought about that. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's a lot easier to ship 100 barrels broken down than it is 100 barrels on a container.
Absolutely, no empty space.
Yep.
But, so do they number these things? Like, do they get put
No,
together
so that's the
somewhere?
really cool thing about cooperage is like, I mean, there's a ton of people doing it, but it's an ancient art, you know? And these guys can just by feeling, looking, touching, put it all together. There's no glue, there's no nothing. It's just those hoops, which a lot of them don't even have a nail in them. So they build the barrel around, they tap the hoops on there and stick the heads on and hope it holds.
But it's not the same barrel.
No.
Like it might have different slats in it,
Yeah,
right?
from all over. I'm
From
sure.
all over. Okay.
I'm sure they get them from Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, whoever.
That is so
And it's all
interesting.
broken down, shipped over there, and then the Scots put them back together.
Wow. I love it, but then I'm thinking from a controls, aspect,
Right.
that was frightening as well.
Yeah,
So,
Well, again, when I said Shane says that with what bourbon barrel doesn't really matter to the whiskey. Again, the Scotsman getting whatever 25 different distilleries worth of barrels put back together, maybe it doesn't really matter. But because we're just buying individual lots, so whether it's Woodford Reserve, Garrison Brothers, there might be a little bit of a difference. But
Do you actually shop around, do you sort of,
sorry.
do you actually shop around and say, actually want that one?
Online, usually the brokers send us, Shane's got a lot of good connections being in the industry for 35 years, so they'll kind of give them sometimes first dibs. Okay, we whatever, empty a bunch of pitchers, do you want it? And it's like, yes, please. But it's pretty amazing. When we first started a Jack Daniel's barrel was like 60 bucks or so. We buy 120 of them at a pop. Now they're $150, $200 just because of the inflation and price of diesel, all that kind of stuff. So demand, a lot of people reusing casks.
So how many can you hold in inventory at a time?
We try and we make whiskey in the January through about May, and we just kind of buy enough barrels to fill so that they're not sitting all summer. Because sitting in the heat, you got to keep them wet. The more they dry out, the more susceptible when you put whiskey into them, it's just going to fall out. So we try and get them all filled, and then we start back up in about September, October with the whiskey, and do that till about Christmas. Just because the summer months, it's so hot, so it's hard to, first off, be in there. Second, control fermentations, control distillations, things like that. So that gives us a chance to make vodka, gin, clean up, fix stuff, bottle, do all that fun stuff.
Take vacation.
Yeah. Come up to the SPAC and see my buddy Dave Matthews and stuff like that.
I was gonna ask, did Shane go to Boston for the?
Shane was at the Scotland game.
He was at the Scotland
Yeah,
game.
he helped drink them dry.
Yeah, I heard the bars ran out of tenants.
He was pumped up. He was funny. He said he was like in the bar talking to guys. And, oh, that's my cousin's whatever best man at his wedding, and close knit group of guys.
Yeah.
And I'm going over to his house Friday night. I'm gonna set up my projector. We're gonna
Nice.
watch the Morocco Scotland game and have some whiskey, have some fun.
Nice.
We still have a beer.
Oh, I'm a beer guy all day. I barely touch the whiskey, but that's good. If I drank whiskey.
Oh, can you
it'd be a real
explain,
problem.
Cole, just because I don't truly understand, how does the master distiller and assistant distiller, what are like the two different, or how do the roles interchange, but then how are they also different?
Shane is a really good mentor in that everything that I do, he does. Everything he does, I do. Of course, he orders the barrels and things like that, but we basically split every job in the distillery. So like I said, I mash one week, he distills that week, we vice versa. We take turns cleaning the mash tun once a week, jumping in there. Shane's not scared to get dirty. He's a really bright guy with fixing boilers, fixing pumps, problem solving. So like something breaks, Shane's like, hey, not a big deal, shut it down for a minute, grab the wrench, like we'll figure it out, which is really nice. And yeah, it's just we do all the bottling. So really, and he makes boxes, I make boxes, like I move barrels, he moves barrels, so.
What about like cask management? Who decides like what casks you're gonna start filling and who's
a lot
tasting those
a lot of
casks?
Shane.
Okay.
Like I said, we'll buy 70 Pinot Noir casks. We just fill those up, put them in the warehouse. Then we do the bourbon barrels, and then we'll finish with like sherry butts and sherry hogsheads, things like that. The one thing coming from wine is wine oxidizes, it gets real funky, so you got to keep it topped up, check on it all the time, sulfur levels, all this and that. So coming to whiskey, like I'm like, when are we gonna open that barrel? He's like, 10 years, 12 years, like, which was like mind blowing. He's like, don't worry about it, it's fine, like as long as it's not leaking. So that was a really big weight off my shoulders, doing a lot of that in the wine industry. But it's really cool learning from Shane, because Scotland, they've been doing it for so long, and a lot of this stuff is just like my great great grandpa taught this guy, who taught this guy. So all this history has been passed on all the way through Shane, who's thankfully brought it over here to America and teaching me and making really good whiskey.
Is there a cookbook out there, or is it?
We have a protocol. You might have to do Shane's on for
He
it.
told me to do this.
Yeah. We have some set points. Like I said, we have a couple like parameters every single day. So it's not like we're standing there tasting the whiskey like, should we cut it now? It's all very scientific, alcohol, temperature, all those different kind of things. So we do it very scientifically. Shane is more, he's just been doing it for so long. So my brain, I have a degree in fermentation science. So I'd be like, well, why don't we try it a little like this? And he'd be like, nah, it's not the way you do it, but it's okay. I've learned. And I've helped with some things, with a little bit of my background, helping build spreadsheets and doing all these different things. So,
What about, are there other people working with you guys too?
No, just Shane and I.
The two of you. Wow.
Yep. So we do everything. We mash it, distill it, barrel it, bottle it, the whole shoot match, as you could say.
So you're done now for the summer though?
We're on to vodka. So
okay.
Vodka and gin for the summer, and in August, kind of take a deep breath, clean stuff, and get ready for whiskey again.
Yeah, cool. Great.
Cool. Everybody ready for the next one in the lineup, the Battle of Harlem Heights?
Yes.
So these next two, going with kind of the last one as well. On paper, there's not a lot of variation. They're all bourbon barrel, but I do think they have a lot of differences. So this one is actually a marriage of two different size bourbon barrels. It's a 50-50 split, 15-gallon barrels and 25-gallon barrels. So I don't think, like, for whatever reason, I don't find this one quite as rich as the Quebec. Again, everybody gets something different. You might not get what I got from it. I found Quebec to be the softest of the next three, I would say. But so again, with this lineup, starting with Richmond, going all the way down to the last one. Normally with the Revolutionary series, we were releasing 2 in the spring, 2 in the fall. We just started it like 2 years ago. But this year for the 250th, we decided to triple our production of it. And we're doing 1 for each month. So starting with Richmond, which was February, Harlem Heights is April's, and then you're getting a preview of May and June as well with the next 2. And then we've got all sorts of, we got the Burning of Kingston coming out in August, which is probably going to be our most unique release. We're actually using peated Scotch barrels for that one. Figured Burning of Kingston, it fits. I got to try a little bit of that, and I think it's definitely the most unique one in our lineup. It's a nice balance between getting that peatiness that some of our fans have been looking for, but also retaining the kind of spirit of our base whiskey.
And using the peated barrels is something Shane has done at Wolfburn. So as some of you probably know, when you add peat is when you dry the barley during the malting process. So that smoke helps dry the barley. It also imparts all that smoky flavor. If we did that and got the malt that had that smoky flavor in there, put it through our system, it would take a couple of weeks to get that smoky flavor out of our system. So the way we do it is we just buy Ardbeg and Lefroy casks. So those had the peated whiskey in them. We put our whiskey in there. This one was, I think, those small Garrison Brothers barrels. We put it into the Lefroy cask for about a year or so, so it imparts some of that smoky flavor without us having to run it through the stills.
The question, why the name Tenmile?
So we are on in Wassaic where we're located. There's the 10-mile river. So it's really just a geographic, and then same with everything except the Revolutionary series is all based on local spots. So like the Little Rest export cask. Little Rest is a road near us that about 2 miles away that just sounded like the perfect name for a whiskey. You need a little rest, have a little dram of this.
They say supposedly the story is it's at the top of the hill. There was an inn, and that's where the horse, after dragging you up there all day, like beer for your horse, whiskey for you, have a little rest. And 10 Mile is the train station too. We're right beside the Harlem line. So if you wanted to come from Manhattan, you can get on Grand Central, about 2 hours, 15 minutes or so. Actually get off at the train station, go across the 10 Mile River,
Walk right over to
and
us.
you're right at the distillery.
And then stumble your way back onto the train and you're good to go.
That's what I always suggest to people. No driving, no worries, just have fun at all. Well, the next stop is Wassaic. That's the last stop. So if you go the wrong way, you can still get there.
We tried to make it easy for everybody.
End up in Sing Sing or something.
Yeah.
But if you guys are ever down that way, it's about an hour 45 from here, I would say. It is a beautiful facility, large space. We recently opened up a full service restaurant as well. So it's a Thai restaurant, kind of an interesting pairing, but it works and the food is fantastic.
So you are open all the time?
We're open Thursdays through Sundays. We also do free tours and tastings. So we do one on Thursday, Friday, and then we do 3 throughout the day on Saturday, Sunday.
But it's a beautiful space. It was an old dairy barn that was redone by this man named Alan Shope, who's a world-renowned architect. He's worked on like building Mick Jagger, his Brazilian home, all this stuff. His specialty is wood. So there's these giant, beautiful beams. Everything was milled on site. So where the barrels are now is actually the old sawmill. So Shane and I ripped all that stuff out of there, scrapped it. And so it's beautiful milled floors. There's not a screw or a bolt or a nail in the floors. It's all tongue and groove put together. It's very beautiful. He built it as basically a kind of event space. He would do talks about architecture, things like that. Then he tried to grow wine, failed. Tried to do cheese, didn't like it. And then I think at some point, his wife was like, I didn't want to get out of this little town. So Mr. Dyson bought the property. We just put the stills in there. We kept pretty much everything the same. We had the same guy who did all the woodwork in the barn come build us our bar. So it's beautiful if you're ever around. Definitely worth a stop. Makes you feel like you're in Scotland. We got the rolling hills and
It's beautiful.
a couple cows, stuff like that.
Worth the drive for sure.
Fortunately, there's no train from here that can get you right there, but
Down to Poughkeepsie in about 40-minute drive, you could be there.
Cool. Everybody ready for the last of the straight bourbon barrel releases? So this is the Battle of Ridgefield. This one, another 5-year, exclusively done in full-size bourbon barrels. So you can see, maybe not in the glass, but if you look at it in the bottle, it's definitely the palest of our whiskeys. And again, I think the base spirit really shines through in this one. The barrel doesn't have as much influence on the whiskey.
No,
Okay.
I've been able to, it's mostly technical.
Gotcha.
That's where they got the idea from.
So you mentioned yeast is not important.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million different ways to make whiskey.
Because I have a friend who's a brewer.
Yep.
And he's serious.
Yeah. So with whiskey, again, like I said, we try to make the same thing every day. So if we were doing wild yeast, spontaneous yeast, you're gonna get variations, which takes away from down the road having the same product in every barrel. So we use a standard bread to make single malt whiskey yeast, so that every time we put it in there, we know what's gonna come out of it. Some bourbon guys will take what's fermenting in the wash or fermenter, put it in the next one, use that to inoculate their ferment. Again, to each their own, but we just try and keep it all the exact same every single time. But this is what Shane's used at Wolfburn. I believe they use it at Oban, so he knew it would work. Again, we didn't have to mess around and hope in a couple of years that it would be all right. So.
When you're draining your mash, your wort, and you're talking about wanting it to be clean, do you measure that cleanliness, or how do you? So, I take groups to Japan every year, and we visited some of these newer distilleries that they're so like on top of how clean their wort is. They even have there's a tube with a light, and they're measuring, you know, to make sure that there's nothing coming through. And then I've been in Ireland at some of these new distilleries where they're putting all the grains are going forward. They're not keeping anything back, so it's like the complete opposite. But how are you measuring that at all? Or I mean, you know your filtration obviously, but is there any kind of
there's no like parameters that we do really for it. When we mash in, of course it's mixed together, and when it sits in the mash tun, Shane is very adamant that gets stirred very slowly, about twice. So instead of turning the stirrers on and letting it run for 30 minutes, mixing all that stuff up, 2 really slow turns. And then the thing that we do are, it takes about 5.5 hours to drain. So that
multiple waters though, right?
Yep. So the first water is of course what's going in with the barley. It's mixed together. Like I said, we stir it once or twice. It's only drawn off about 20 liters a minute, which I think is about 4 or 5 gallons a minute. So very slow, which again doesn't mix anything up. We used to have a sight glass on one of the pipes until we were cleaning with caustic, and it popped. So we decided we'll just keep it stainless steel, and no more worries about that. But yeah, the first water runs for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And once that gets down to a certain level, the second water comes on. It's a little bit hotter. That's a set amount of water. So the first water is about 3,000 liters or so. Second water is about 1,600 or so. And then the third water is added at the end once the washback is filled. And that is mixed up in the washback and pumped back into the sparge tank and reused. So we start off in the morning with a little bit of sugar in the tank. We're not dumping anything down the drain.
6 whiskeys in, I can hear the chatter. It's happening. What you talking about, Willis? I like this one because I like being able to taste the distillate as well. Being in that bigger barrel allows them to come forward even with like this This was the one when I was pouring. I was always looking at the color. That's a weird color.
Right.
It is very,
It's like a dirty color almost. It's like a muddy. It's not a.
So here's wine for a while.
Yeah.
like, did you carry our original Cask?
Yeah.
Similar tone to that.
Very interesting. I have no idea where it comes from, but
They say it's never really salt.
yeah.
But it's a flavor.
Yeah, maybe just a minute. I'm asking if there's any questions online.
Parks at the same time, parks, but they're all half full. And just for the media, you guys know
Hey, Vinny,
Yeah.
any history that we need to know of?
Well, what I was gonna mention is that Harlem Heights was kind of an extension of the Battle of Brooklyn. And then
Okay.
as Washington got pushed uptown,
Into Harlem.
Harlem Heights was another skirmish that didn't go well for the Americans. Let me see if there's anything else I forgot. Ridgefield, I mentioned, is that Benedict Arnold was at that battle too for the British. And they rounded up some of the villagers, locked them in the church, and he had to set them on fire. Not good. Just in terms of that, but at least they, let's see.
They should have used peated cask for that one.
Yeah, they probably could. Charles.
Too soon.
Battle of Quebec was 1775. We actually decided to try to take Canada because we figured we could get the Canadians interested in becoming the 51st state.
Still thinking that,
The 14th colony.
It
It was the 14th colony. Same concept. And when they got up there, General Philip Schuyler of Schuyler House over here, he was supposed to go on the expedition, but he was always sick, and this time he had gout. So he sends General Richard Montgomery. Now Montgomery is very successful. That gets into Canada. He takes Montreal. He occupies the city of Montreal. And Benedict Arnold, who's then on our side, he goes up to Quebec, and he has Quebec under siege. And then Montgomery sends troops to help Arnold, but and he goes on that mission too. But a blizzard hits. They get decimated. Literally, Montgomery is killed. Very famous John Trumbull painted that. We have the lithograph hanging in Schuyler House in Schuyler. And basically, Arnold gets wounded in the leg for the first time. Gets wounded in that same leg the second time at the Battle of Saratoga. It should have been amputated. But he took out 2 pistols and he threatened to shoot the doctor if he tried, so the doctor saved the leg. They never thought that he would walk again, but he did. Without going into a long explanation, Washington wants to take care of this guy, so he makes him governor of Philadelphia. He meets a young lady by the name of Peggy Shippen, whose family happens to be loyalists. She has a friend named John Andre. So he gets into a little bit of a tiff with the people in Philadelphia because he's stealing money. He got caught, because it was all about the money. So she convinces him that, to go over to the British side. That's where he makes his trade. We have a very interesting monument at Saratoga, because there he was a hero. People come from all over to see this, and it's called the Boot Monument. It is a monument that was done in the 1870s to mark the first anniversary, the 100-year anniversary of Saratoga. It was the 1870s, but around there. So the Boot Monument has Arnold's boot, his general's insignia, and there's a little epitaph to a hero in this battle, but it does not mention his name. Also, on the Saratoga Monument, there's a little niche for the image, the statue of each general that fought the battle. There's one niche that remains empty to this day. And that is for Benedict Arnold. So that's basically.
So what kind of casts will you use for Benedict Arnold?
That's a good question.
We're gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, we'll have to play around. I don't know.
Probably rock cut, something
Straight off the still.
Sardines,
Yeah, you might say
herring,
maybe 3
herring.
refills.
I think would be good. Herring.
Sure.
Fish.
The other thing I think I remember about Quebec was they were almost all the way up there, and like you said, it was cold, and they were like, "Hey, come back," and they were like, "We're here, like let's." And I think they tried to sneak up, right? And
They tried to sneak up, they were basically had to shoot all their horses.
yeah,
It was a nightmare that Harlem made it back the way he did. But the good news is the next one that we have up is actually a better battle, Trent.
Yes.
good to hear.
Amazing
All right.
battle with
Let's do Trent.
Delaware, and took the German soldiers who were actually Hessians. But the ones in Saratoga, by the way, were not Hessians.
Right.
They were from Ridgefield. A small thing, but everybody tends to call all the German troops Hessians.
Right.
No matter where they are, but people like me.
All right.
Good to know.
Let's let the online people know we were talking about
Yes, we were going through
crazy history.
crazy history stories here of the line. Getting caught up on that. So Trenton, the penultimate one in the series here. So this goes back to the sherry casks. So it's kind of like the first one you tried, the export cask. It's almost like export cask light in a way. So 5 years. This is 90% ex-bourbon barrel. Just 10% of those Oloroso sherry casks, which just enough to like let you know it's there without being overpowering, I think. So you kind of get some of those like dark fruit, almost like plum raisin sort of notes, just a little bit milder and more in sync with the last few that you tried.
So they said they could hear you, Vinny. That's pretty amazing.
Really?
Well, I have a teacher voice, so I would, you know, once I.
You know how to project.
Well, once I got on the university level, you know, those rooms can hold 200 people, so you gotta read those out.
Sure, yeah. And the whiskey helps too.
It does. By the way, Trenton has an awesome tomato pot. That's where you go for the tomato pot. I gotta mention pizza. I didn't bring it up at the Battle of Brooklyn. We're in Brooklyn, Eloise from Omaha.
That's a different
Okay.
battle.
Don't miss it.
Is this a thing like every seminar pizza has to be brought up?
Wait, no, what is the other one? So there's Spumoni Gardens,
Tony Gardens.
and what's the other one that you guys go back and battle?
Oh, yeah, that's, well, there's the far, that all the hipsters. right
Well,
up
wasn't
there.
there one that like John or Ann and Peter or somebody was?
Yeah, well, they're L&B fans, and the other
Oh,
one
L&B.
is J&B Pizzeria
Okay.
on 18th Avenue, does the best snit slice. In
I
my
mean,
opinion.
Spumoni is good.
Yeah, but people will argue that if you go downtown, it's Crispy Pizza, because Pomoni Gardens. Sicilian all the way. If you're in Trenton, Lorenzo's, that's the tomato party.
All right.
I will take your word on it.
Are you writing a book? Yeah.
Because I lived in Princeton for 8 years, so I was pretty close to Trenton. Actually, 16 years.
Wow.
That's what I had to teach.
Sidebar, but that was the reason why I asked about the yeast was because when I was with my buddy in Princeton, they actually had a yeast supplier there.
Okay.
And he spent an hour and a half talking to this guy about yeast for his beers.
Yeah.
And this guy was very, very.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, oh, cool. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You can do that? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people don't know. I mean, yeast are ancient microbes that have been around forever. They started out, the fruit fell off the tree, the monkey would eat it, feel pretty good. They kept eating it. All of a sudden, somebody left out a piece of bread or a mash of some sort, drank it. This is pretty good. Left out some wine. Whoops, this is pretty good. And of course, the history of alcohol. They used to drink it, low alcohol wines and beers, just because it was better than water. And I was watching a history video on grog the other day about how the British Army or the British Navy, of course, like they started with giving them beer. The beer would go bad on the long travels. They figured out hops, antioxidants, antimicrobial, helped a little bit. Then they figured out you distill that stuff, turn it into whiskey or rum, stays shelf stable. But then they were saying that you get 2 rations a day of your rum or whiskey, and what the sailors would do would hold on to it, wait till Friday, they drink all of it, and then wake up and the captain was like, "You guys aren't worth the hoop. Like, we gotta stop this." So they started adding water to it, and that's where the grog came in, because it purifies the water, makes it easier to drink. But yeah, alcohol's been for a long time. Back in the day, before they knew what yeast was, it was basically magic. Then they started capturing that yeast, propagating that yeast, turning it into all these different strains that are used for wines, beers, whiskey. Yeah, there's a million different ways to use them. That was kind of my favorite thing in school, learning about all the different yeasts. And this yeast will give you this flavor, this yeast will give you that flavor, this is for white wine, this is for red wine, things like that. So it is wild. And then I went to France to study a while, and I would go over there and ask them about what yeast they use, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" They were like, "It's whatever's in this room." They were like, "I've never touched a bag of yeast in my life." It's like, all right, cool. I didn't know. But
I mean, in Scotland, 99% just say distiller's yeast.
yeah, exactly.
Which is sad because there's so many other ways to go.
Yeah.
But they're so set in their ways, like I'm sure Shane is as well.
Yep.
This is the way it's done. This is the way it's been done.
Right.
You know,
It's predictable. You can see what's coming.
it is.
Exactly.
You know where you're going.
But
You never really-
there's
and then-
always
and then you can
experimentation.
exercise your art distillation.
For sure. The other fun thing about our stills is the line arm. So coming off the top of the still, going to the condensers, our line arms are faced upwards. Forsyth, when Mr. Forsyth was over here, he claimed that less than 5% of the stills that he has installed around the world are upward facing line arms. So what that does is that alcohol vapor has to work a little bit harder to get to the top, rather than if you go to Isla, where they're straight down. So when that alcohol gets to the top, it comes straight into the condenser, straight into the low lines receiver. Ours works upwards, so there's a lot of reflux. It tries to build up a lot of those fruity characters that we work hard to get. Yep. So a little bit more fruit, a little lighter whiskey. Shane likes it nice and light, not a lot of oils, things like that. So we clean our machines about once a week. Shane likes to think that if you over clean them, you lose a lot of the flavor in there. It's just like over cleaning your cast iron pan and this and that. You just want to rinse it off, you know, make sure there's nothing in it. But if you over sanitize it, the sanitizing flavor is in there, yeah.
We all use them, it's not just me.
So Cole, is there anything you want to try? Look at it and go, you know what, Shane? What about if we did this? Does he actually allow you to go ahead and or?
Not too much. The gin we get to play with a lot. I got to really know that recipe. Shane definitely was there to work with me, but the gin was a lot of fun. What I did, we had a little like 10-gallon copper still, and I would take basically neutral grain spirit, so 94% alcohol, 95 Everclear, this and that. I diluted it down to 50%. I went to the garden. I grabbed all these different botanicals. I had to Google, can we distill this? Will it kill it? Will it make me go blind? But we played around with like mint, lemon balm, ordered some orange peel. We have angelica root, orris root, juniper, of course, things like that. And what we really figured out is that if you distill them separately and put them back together, it's a lot better than putting them all in one still and hoping you get the flavors you want off of it. So what we do is we'll do a week of orange peel distillation, a week of Meyer lemons, a week of mint, things like that, and then we put it all back together with our little recipe and put it in a big tank, let it sit for a month so it marries together. Versus a lot of places will just put a bunch of different botanicals in the still, fire it up, take the flavor off of it. So the gin is something I really got to play with that I really liked. It is fun tasting like the mint maceration. It's like nice. It looks like very green. It tastes delicious. The Meyer lemon is delicious. I take a little bit home, make some limoncello out of it, things like that.
But can you sell that as gin if it doesn't have juniper in it?
I don't.
Oh, by itself, you mean?
Yeah, by itself.
I don't believe so.
Right.
No, but
But do you sell it on like?
no, it's all put back together and it's made into our listening rock gin.
Legally, what makes it gin? A certain percentage.
Has to have
Juniper in it. And yeah, it's like Regis. I don't know the total rules on it, but there's an alcohol percentage, and it's really funny because people don't think about gin. It's like it's basically vodka. You add these flavors, redistill it. So when we add all those different things in it, the orange peel makes it orange, the Meyer lemons makes it yellow, and once it's redistilled, you get all that flavor, but it comes off the still nice and clear.
So since you're doing single malt and you're also doing gin, do you ever do a Geneva?
We have not.
Why not? Why not win?
I don't know.
I'm sad to get
I'd have
that
to do
early
some
as
research.
well, but
I have to look into that. I don't even know totally what.
You know,
I don't know totally what Geneva is.
Geneva is an element of decontaminating. It's the Dutch's answer to gin. It's single. It's malted barley, but gin.
Okay.
we do use malted barley in our
It's the
mash.
grandfather to gin. It's the grandfather to whiskey and the father to gin.
Interesting.
We do an 80-20 split of wheat and malted barley for our gin mash.
Do you make your own grain alcohol?
Yep. No, it's all made. So Sinpatch vodka is our vodka. We take 80% wheat, 20% malted barley, mash it, 1 week fermentation. First distillation, collect it. Second distillation goes up the line arm. There's a valve that closes that opens another one. It goes up a vodka column. We get it up to about 94.6, 94.7 ABV. The perfect distillation in a perfect situation would be, I believe, 96.4. So we like to think that like 0.7, 0.8% still leaves a little flavor in there, makes it a little smoother, things like that. So that is collected at 94.6, 94.7. Add water, that's vodka, or we cut it down to 50% out of botanicals and redistill it. So we don't buy any alcohol from anywhere. We make every single drip of it.
I think do a New York Geneva and the geeks will come.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Nobody does it.
Yeah, that's true. I can't think of anybody. I've only
Nobody
had a
does
few,
it.
certainly not from New York.
I think Copper Seed played with the idea and
They're not even. I'm sad to see them go. Unfortunately, I liked their. What was it? Their green malt whiskey. Yeah, that was excellent.
Hey, number 6 is a jacket.
All right,
General
General Washington.
All
right, guys.
Washington, last
Keep it
one.
down, last one. So everybody can hear.
All right. So while all the others that you tried tonight are 46% alcohol, this one we proofed up a little bit. It's not quite cask strength. We tried a few different variations of it. We tried, what was it, 50, 53, I think we tried a 48. So this one, 53%. This is kind of like a heavier, richer version of the Battle of Trenton or the export cask. So 5 years, heavier emphasis on the sherry barrel. So a 70-30 splits of ex-bourbon barrel and those Oloroso sherry casks. So I think definitely the richest of the lineup, why we're ending with that one. That little extra kick, a little extra spice, some of that extra fruit from the sherry barrels. A little more dimension, I think, to this one.
Was that the intention?
Was that?
I mean, you were looking for as much depth as possible.
Yeah, Joel kind of picked out the blend with this. He really liked the export. He liked sherry. So we put a little bit more sherry in there. And then we left the proof a little bit higher. So as you can see, a little darker color, more intense flavor. Kind of your end of the night by the fire type of whiskey. Sort on your ice cream, something like that.
This was like one of our focal points for the series as well. So we did more bottles of this one. We're really pushing this one more than the others. So you actually might see this on shelves, around everywhere, all over New York. Almost like one of our new core whiskeys, but it will run out eventually.
We had to call it General Washington. I believe they wrote a letter to Mount Vernon and asked could we call it George Washington. They said no. And so we said, how about General Washington? And they were like, okay, do that. So little workaround,
Now you just gotta talk to them about here comes the general.
Yeah. Exactly.
How was this one aged?
Sorry?
How was this one aged?
It's 5 years for both the bourbon barrel and the sherry, and then we marry it together in a tank.
30% sherry.
Yep. Oh. So yeah, heavier use of the sherry barrels in this one compared to export and the Trenton. What did everybody think of the lineup? You got some good Tenmile fans in the room tonight?
Yeah, I see some empty glasses.
Yeah, I see a bunch of empty glasses. That's a good sign.
So I was trying to say, not St. George, so the General Washington, 70-30.
Yep.
That's 70 and 30 for the entire 5 years.
Yes, so they're aged separately for 5 years in each barrel, and then married together, what, 2 months before it goes in the bottle roughly?
Okay.
Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
They're both aged separately, 5 years in sherry and 5 years in.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, simultaneously, and then, yeah.
We also do a couple double matureds. We've done a double matured that was those small Garrison brothers put into a sherry butt. They came out really good. We won a double gold in San Francisco with that one. It was 3-year-old or 4-year-old whiskey. We've done an ex rye cask that was bourbon barrels put to an ex.
How long
rye
were
cask.
the finishes or?
The first one, the sherry, the first double matured was 3-year-old whiskey and I think about 8 months of sherry cask. The rye cask was I think 4-year-old bourbon barrels put into the rye cask for about a year.
Yep, I think it was like 15 months, like just
3 months, something like that. And then the last one that we just released was the same thing as the first double matured, but we filled up 2 of those sherry butts. So the first one was bottled a couple of years ago, and this one was aged for almost 3 years in the sherry butt.
So would you consider anything a finish if it was like less than a year, or
We like to think
you
so.
just
I
say
would-
double mature across the board?
Yeah, I mean, once I think once it hits another piece of oak or another piece of wood, it'd be
Just go.
as far as I know.
Only one that we put finish like on the label for the rye cask.
Right.
So-
Probably my personal favorite of the
But that
cask
was
strengths.
15 months.
Yeah,
You said.
something like that, yeah.
Wow. All right, so we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the we're gonna do the online people first. If you guys can hear me, we're just gonna go quickly. Which were your maybe top 2 favorites?
Battle of Quebec and Battle of Brooklyn.
All right, Jim and Marnie, since you just unmuted, why don't you start us off? What were your top 2 of tonight?
Yeah, mine were General Washington and then Battle of Quebec.
Battle
Nice.
of Quebec.
I like
Okay.
it. Yes.
Washington, Quebec.
My 1 was Battle of Quebec and 2 was Battle of Brooklyn.
Okay, great.
I like it.
I like that. I like that. All right, Dave and Diane.
So General Washington, by far, that was fantastic, and really liked Raid on Richmond also.
Raid on Richmond.
Nice.
Okay.
I know that's Joel's favorite.
All right, Diane.
Okay, I like General Washington. Oh, and Battle of Ridgefield.
Ridgefield.
Okay,
All right. So we're spreading it out here. What about you, Larry?
Washington, get on.
General Washington, absolutely by far, but I really love the Raid on Richmond.
Nice.
Okay.
Is that unanimous so far for George Washington?
Yeah, there's been a lot of George Washington. All right, Warren, what about you?
I'd go with Richmond and Quebec.
Richmond and Quebec. All right. Mike is not online, I don't think. So let's go to the room. Let's start all the way around the table. Why don't you go, Todd? We'll go that way.
I would have to say the Washington.
Okay.
And Quebec.
Washington and Quebec. For Todd.
I'll go Washington and Richmond.
Washington and Ridgefield.
Ridgefield and Brooklyn.
Ridgefield and Brooklyn.
Interesting.
All right. I like
Sure,
these
very
Brooklyns
good.
coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Washington and Harlem.
All right.
Oh, is that our first Harlem vote for a bit?
That's the first Harlem.
Quebec and Richmond.
Okay. Vinny?
Trenton and Washington.
Oh, Trenton's
He
coming
likes
through.
the sherry cask.
Go Washington and Little Rest.
Nice sport.
Little
All right,
Rest.
cool.
All right.
Washington and Richmond.
Okay. And Zach, just a quick question. You're not a single malt guy,
I'm not.
and this was kind of new for you. What did you think?
Brand new.
What did you think about these? Are they too different for you, or are they?
The first few, I couldn't taste much of the difference as far as my palate. Like I'm not. This is all new to me.
Yeah.
And the Richmond stood out in the
Okay.
earlier, and then the Washington reminds me more of a typical, cask strength bourbon or rye type.
Okay.
More flavors come through on the Washington.
With the proof, yeah.
Which is what I'm typically used to. So.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
But I appreciate you joining us tonight, even though you're not necessarily a single malt fan.
I'm a history guy.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
I'm a sucker for the bottling. I'm just,
there you
I'm
go.
here for looks, man.
Cool.
I love it.
Quebec and Trenton. Nice. I like this variation.
Trenton and Harlem.
Trenton and Harlem. There we go. Harlem got a second vote.
I think I would go with Battle of Brooklyn and Quebec.
Nice.
Right.
This is pretty awesome.
We're out of Quebec, guys. You can't like it.
Audrey.
Richmond and Washington.
Okay.
Washington and Little Rest.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful.
Washington and Little Rest. Two in a row.
Richmond and Washington.
Richmond and Washington. All
Hey,
right.
you guys like the strong stuff? Huh?
Yeah, I like everybody loves.
Great. Awesome. I think
Cool.
that was a really good rounded out response.
Everybody
Yeah.
got some votes there.
I think,
nobody
yeah.
was forgotten
So
in the
you
lineup.
can't stop making any of them.
Yeah. Oh, we got plenty of them. So.
And we got plenty coming out.
But Brooklyn is gone.
Yeah,
That's gone.
only a few left.
If you like the Brooklyn, just saying. All right. Any last parting before I stop the recording?
Thank you, Charles, for having
Of
us here
course,
tonight.
yeah,
And
cheers.
thank you for everybody for coming out here. Thank you, everybody at home.
So I'm going to stop the online recording, and I will see you all next week, or some of you next week. So cheers.